Super 4 match of Asia Cup cricket. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Tasnim Tasnim. Welcome you to News at 10. You've just heard the headlines, now moving on to the details. Chief Advisor Professor Mohammad Yunus has called for the revitalization of the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation (SAARC). He made this call while delivering his speech at the 80th session of the United Nations General Assembly in New York on Friday. Established 4 decades ago, Professor Yunus said SAARC achieved notable progress in its early years and laid a strong foundation for regional cooperation. He said despite political deadlock, its institutional structure remains intact. Professor Yunus said for shared development, there is no alternative to regional cooperation among neighbors. He said Bangladesh is firmly committed to peaceful regional cooperation in this area, and that is why, as the first country in South Asia, Bangladesh has recently joined the United Nations Water Convention. Through initiatives such as BIMSTEC, BBI and the Asian Highway and SASEC, the Chief Advisor said Bangladesh is advancing regional connectivity and trade. In his address, Professor Yunus announced Bangladesh's candidacy for the presidency of the 81st session of the United Nations General Assembly. He also sought the international community's cooperation for the quick, safe and sustainable repatriation of the Rohingyas. Professor Yunus said Bangladesh is in the process of graduating from the category of least developed countries to that of developing countries. Enhanced cooperation from the international community, in particular the relevant entities of the United Nations, is essential to ensure a smooth and sustainable transition, he said. The Chief Advisor acknowledged the contribution of the United Nations to Bangladesh's progress and development. Chief Advisor Professor Mohammad Yunus said the young people are recognized as agents of change around the world, suggesting creating employment opportunities for them. He said, yet they are also the first to suffer from persisting inequalities, conflicts, climate change, protectionism, and digital divide. The Chief Advisor made the remarks while addressing the high-level meeting of the 30th anniversary of World Programme of Action for Youth at the UN headquarters in New York yesterday. Technology offers enormous promise for inclusion through innovation, Professor Yunus said, but its benefits must not be placed behind walls of greed. That is why in Bangladesh, the interim government have launched a national youth entrepreneur policy to provide finance, skills and market access, enabling young people to be job creators rather than job seekers. The Chief Advisor said globally, Bangladesh firmly supports the World Programme of Action for Youth, Pact for the Future, UN Youth Strategy 2030 and the Youth Peace and Security Agenda.
Bangladesh is the 8th most populous country in the world with 180 million people. That's a big population. But the point I want to draw attention to, half the population are 180, 90 million are under the age of 27. It's a very young population. It tells us something. Last year in Bangladesh, we witnessed an extraordinary power of youth. They rose with courage to end years of autocracy, reset our nation's course, and entrusted me with the responsibility of steering reforms and democratic transition. They overthrew the government just simply by being on the street and taking bullets on their chest. Around the world, young people are recognized as agents of change. That's taken for granted. But the issue is, how big is the change? That we have to figure out. We know they are the first to suffer from the persisting inequalities, conflicts, climate change, protectionism, and digital divide. But lasting global progress cannot be achieved without youth inclusion. Technology is the language of the youth. I think this is a key issue when we are talking about youth. They are different, not like previous generations. They are a universal generation. This will make the gap between the old and the new generation bigger and bigger and bigger. Entrepreneurship is the future of the youth, not jobs. We keep talking about jobs, but empowered by the technology in the hands of the youth, It will be the creativity and entrepreneurship which will be the path of the young people.
A high-level dinner hosted at the Bangladesh Permanent Mission to the United Nations convened diplomats, UN officials and senior political figures from Bangladesh for a focused dialogue on labor laws, worker rights and ongoing reform efforts in the country. Chief Advisor Professor Mohammad Yunus attended the event as the chief guest. Leaders from 3 major political parties in Bangladesh participated, contributing to an open and constructive exchange on labor issues. In his remarks, Professor Yunus underscored the critical role of labor reforms in attracting large-scale foreign direct investment to Bangladesh. He reaffirmed the interim government's commitment to implementing key reforms aligned with International Labour Organization ILO conventions before the upcoming national elections in February. The discussion, moderated by Lutfi Siddiqui, Special Envoy to the Chief Advisor, included comments from the Director General of the ILO and senior representatives from various UN agencies. Participants commented on the broader implications on labor reform for Bangladesh's economic future and international standing. Mirza Fakhrul Islam Alamgir, the Secretary General of the Bangladesh Nationalist Party BNP, described the garments industry as a cornerstone of Bangladesh's economy. He noted that any future government must prioritize its growth and sustainability and acknowledged the interim government's efforts to advance labor reforms and ILO commitments. Syed Abdullah Muhammad Tahir, Naibi Amir of Jamaat Islami, highlighted that many in his party bring direct experience from the garments industry. He expressed support from the interim government's reform agenda and a desire to build on these reforms if elected. Humayun Kabir, Foreign Affairs Advisor to BNP's acting chairman Tariq Rahman, echoed the BNP's appreciation for the current labor initiatives. A common theme among all 3 speakers was the urgent need for Bangladesh to secure fairer pricing for its garment exports. Dr. Tasim Zara, a senior leader of the Nationalist Citizens Party NCP, offered a personal reflection, recalling the Rana Plaza tragedy as a defining moment in her political journey. She said, calling attention to the human cost of unsafe labor practices and the pressing need for reform. Chief Advisor Professor Mohammad Yunus has called for finding ways to control such technologies to prevent the misuse of artificial intelligence or technologies that may arise in the future. He said this at a high-level event titled Human Rights for Everyone, Everywhere, Core of Our Shared Humanity. The UN rights body OHCHR organized the event on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly in New York Thursday.
Extreme amount of that abuse comes. One comes from the concentration of wealth itself. If you look at the media or any communication, gradually it becomes in the control of fewer and fewer hands because you have the money, you have the authority, you have the political power, you do that. Here we are standing for freedom, but at the same time you are creating a mechanism by which you take it away completely, forever. You cannot make any noise. So this is one thing that we have to come back. It's freedom, yes, but freedom with some limits. You cannot go on doing this because you cannot abuse that power of freedom. Particularly it becomes critical in the face of technology. Technology is coming. They use the freedom. Freedom to abuse. Freedom to say anything. Massive way. So where does our freedom go? Which freedom are we protecting now? Fake news, abusive campaigns, those who control finances, those who want to control businesses, or any political ambitions. So where do you limit that? So this is one, simultaneously, we have to address that. As the technology proceeds, AI comes in. How do you fight with the AI to protect your rights that you have been describing? And we are protecting all the movement that we have created over years. So how do you protect put the limits on the AI and future technologies that will be coming? So when you try to protect one, you release the, another power on the other side. How do you manage that? So that management issue becomes more important for us.
Chief Advisor Professor Mohammad Yunus co-chaired an event on effective and meaningful youth participation at national and international levels for the benefit of current and future generations. The United Nations organized the event at UN headquarters in New York on Thursday. Chief Advisor Professor Mohammad Yunus sought Dutch support for establishing cold storage facilities in Bangladeshi villages to help preserve perishable agriculture products during harvesting season. He made the formal request during a meeting with Dutch Prime Minister Dick Schoof on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly at the UN headquarters in New York on Thursday. He said the absence of short-term cold storage facilities in rural areas leaves farmers unable to preserve their harvests. The chief advisor also emphasized the Netherlands' leadership in flood and river management and maritime technology. He sought Dutch cooperation in water management, ocean research, and efforts to keep Bangladesh's river navigable. In response, Dutch Prime Minister Schoof said he would look into the issues raised and express interest in exploring collaboration in the textile sector as well. Professor Yunus sought international support to counter misinformation campaigns ahead of the general elections scheduled for February next. Foreign Advisor Tawhid Hussain, Chief Advisor Special Envoy Lutfi Siddiqui, SDG Coordinator Lamia Morshed, and Foreign Secretary Asad Alom Siam were also present at the meeting. Albania has expressed a strong interest in recruiting skilled and semi-skilled workers from Bangladesh to meet its expanding labor market needs. The proposal was conveyed by Albanian President Bajram Begaj during a meeting with Chief Advisor Professor Mohammad Yunus on the sidelines of the 80th United Nations General Assembly in New York on Thursday. President Begaj said several Albanian companies have already submitted applications to hire from Bangladesh. He emphasized that bilateral cooperation could be broadened further, particularly in sectors like tourism, highlighting Albania's southern coastline as a promising destination for Bangladeshi travelers. The chief advisor welcomed the initiative, noting that Bangladesh, with its dynamic and youthful workforce, is well positioned to support Albania's economic growth. He also urged the Albanian government to ease visa procedures. In response, President Begaj suggested that Albania is considering the introduction of e-visas for Bangladeshi nationals. President Begaj also announced that Albanian universities are ready to welcome Bangladeshi students under existing international enrollment schemes. Overseas and Expatriate Welfare Advisor Asif Nozrul and Senior Secretary for SDG Affairs Lamia Morshed was also present at the meeting. In observance of World Tourism Day tomorrow, Bangladesh will join the global community in celebrations initiated by the Ministry of Civil Aviation and Tourism. This year's events aim to raise public awareness and highlight the social, cultural, political, and economic significance of tourism, aligned with the United Nations theme, Tourism and Sustainable Transformation. In a message marking the occasion, Chief Advisor Professor Mohammad Yunus emphasized that tourism is globally recognized as a key driver of sustainable development. He said that the industry plays a crucial direct and indirect role in the socio-economic advancement of South Asia's prospective tourist destination, citing the country's rich history, natural beauty, architectural landmarks, diverse traditions, and culinary culture as major attractions. The chief advisor affirmed his interim government's commitment to harnessing the sector's immense potential to ensure sustainable development. Expatriate Bangladeshis will be able to cast their votes around 14 days ahead of the 13th National Parliamentary election. The Election Commission aims to ensure the participation of 50 lakh expatriate voters in the upcoming polls. Bangladeshi missions abroad are ready conducting voter registration for expatriates. Based on the registrations, the Election Commission will begin printing ballots for expatriates in phases. Ballot papers will be sent out 28 days in advance for this purpose. Only registered voters will be eligible to cast their votes through postal ballots. Meanwhile, government and private sector employees, prison inmates and citizens engaged in election duties will also be able to cast their votes through postal ballots this time. However, like expatriate voters, they must complete registration beforehand. Ballot papers will be sent to them 1 week before the election. The Postal Department will monitor the delivery of both domestic and international ballots through the global positioning system. The auditions at the regional stage of Bangladesh's first talent hunt reality show Notun Kuri is being held for a third day. From the morning, contestants of different ages have arrived to showcase their talents. The primary selection round of Notun Kuri began on September 24th and will continue until September 29th. This year's competition features 9 categories, which are acting, recitation, storytelling, comedy, general and classical dance, patriotic and modern songs, Nojrul and Robindra Sangeet, folk music and Hamnat. Participants are competing in 2 age-based groups. These are children aged 6 to under 11 and boys and girls aged 11 to 15. Notun Kuri first started in 1976 on Bangladesh television as the subcontinent's first reality show-style talent hunt program. Many renowned artists emerged from this platform. After remaining closed for a long time, Notun Kuri has now returned with his original name and theme song. Preliminary selection of Bangladesh Television's talent hunt competition Notun Kuri was held in Kumilla today. A huge number of competitors participated in the selection round of various branches of the competition. Joint Secretary of Information and Broadcasting Ministry Mahfuz Akhtar inspected the selection process. She talked to judges, guardians and competitors. Everyone must remain united to establish an accountable government by following the ideals of Shohid Zia to accomplish the aspirations of people. BNP Standing Committee member Selima Rahman said this while speaking as chief guest at a Dua Mahfil in the capital today. The Dua Mahfil was organized seeking cure of BNP chairperson Begum Khaleda Zia and to commemorate the 6th death anniversary of Jatiyotawadi Chhatro Dol founder convener Qazi Asaduzzaman. Speaking as special guest, BNP's senior Joint Secretary General Ruhul Kabir Rizvi said, people will not give consent at all if blueprint is made to help any particular party or group to win the upcoming general election. Moving on to international news.